The street was quiet as Jasmine Carter pulled into the driveway. Her car made a soft clicking noise when she turned off the engine. It was almost dark, and the sky was painted with the soft orange of early evening. Her hands were shaking a little. She'd just finished an 18-hour shift at the hospital. No food, barely any sleep. All she wanted was to take a shower, eat something warm, and fall into bed. She walked up the steps of the small, beige house, the only home she'd ever known, her father's house. She reached into her bag, pulled out her keys, and pushed one into the lock. It didn't turn. She frowned, tried again, twisting harder. Nothing. She took it out and checked it. Same key, same door. She knocked, waited, knocked again. No answer. She stepped back and looked around. One of the living room curtains shifted. Jasmine caught the movement. A second later, the curtain pulled open, and there stood Claudia, her stepmother, staring out at her with a strange smile. Jasmine blinked, confused. She raised a hand and waved slightly. Claudia didn't wave back. Instead, she opened the window just a crack. "You don't live here anymore," she said calmly, almost sweetly. Jasmine stared at her, heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" "I changed the locks this morning," Claudia said. "The house is mine now." No, that's not possible. I've been paying the mortgage." Claudia shrugged. "Doesn't matter. It's not your house." Then she shut the window, just like that. Jasmine stood there, frozen, her mind racing but too tired to think clearly. She tried the door again, harder this time. Her hands were trembling. She stepped back and looked around. Across the street, a neighbor stood on their porch, watching. She sank down onto the front steps, her bag slipping off her shoulder and landing beside her with a dull thud. Her scrubs were wrinkled and stained. Her legs ached. Her heart ached even more. She had nowhere to go. No plan. No warning. The porch light flicked off. She sat in the dark, humiliated. Rage boiled in her chest, but she was too tired to cry. After a while, Jasmine stood up, picked up her bag, and walked slowly down the street, not home. Jasmine's earliest memories were always filled with her father's voice. William Carter was a quiet, kind man who worked as a school janitor and never raised his voice unless he was laughing. After Jasmine's mother passed away when she was just 8, it was just the two of them. He made pancakes every Saturday. He taught her how to fix a leaky faucet and how to be strong even when things felt too heavy. He was proud when Jasmine became a nurse. She remembered how he hugged her at her graduation, his eyes full of tears. "Your mum would be so proud," he whispered. They had a good life, even if it wasn't fancy. The house was small but warm. William kept it clean and full of music. Jasmine helped out when she started working, especially after his health began to slip. Then Claudia came along. She was polished, always wearing pearl earrings and perfume that gave Jasmine a headache. William seemed happy at first, and Jasmine tried to accept it. She wanted him to feel love again, but Claudia never tried to connect with Jasmine. She was cold, polite only when others were watching. They got married 3 years after meeting. Jasmine moved out shortly after, partly because she was busy with work, partly because the house no longer felt the same. 6 months ago, William died from a sudden heart attack. Jasmine had just come off a night shift when the call came. Claudia didn't cry at the hospital. Jasmine did. She held her father's hand until they took him away. After the funeral, everything changed. Claudia barely spoke to her. She stopped answering texts. Jasmine assumed she was grieving too. Jasmine kept sending money for the mortgage and utilities. She thought they were sharing the load, the way William would have wanted, but Claudia never confirmed anything. Jasmine didn't push. She was working back-to-back shifts at the trauma unit, trying to pay off student loans and hold herself together. She didn't know that Claudia had hired a lawyer, quietly, behind the scenes. Claudia had challenged the will William left behind. Jasmine hadn't been ready, emotionally or legally. She didn't know how to fight it, or even that she should. She trusted the law would protect what was right, but the house title was changed. The will, it seemed, had errors. Jasmine found out too late to do anything. So while Claudia hosted garden parties and painted the kitchen a trendy shade of blue, Jasmine slept in her car during double shifts, eating granola bars and instant noodles. Her bank account was nearly empty, but she still sent money for bills, thinking she was keeping her father's home alive. She kept a photo of William taped inside her locker at the hospital. On the hard days, and there were many, she would glance at it and remember why she kept going. It wasn't until the night she was locked out that it all came crashing down. A few days later, Jasmine sat across from her best friend Mel, at a small diner near the hospital. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her eyes puffy. Mel pushed a cup of coffee toward her. "You need to come stay with me," Mel said. "This isn't okay. I'll figure it out," Jasmine muttered, staring into her cup. "No, Jazz, this is not something you just figure out. You were kicked out of your own house, the one your dad left you. I don't have proof." Mel leaned in. "Then we find it, and if we can't, we fight anyway. There are free legal clinics. I know people, and you can stay with me as long as you need." Jasmine looked up, her throat tight. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not." Mel reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Let someone help you for once." Jasmine nodded slowly. Her chest ached, not from sadness alone, but from the deep, sharp wound of being betrayed, not just by Claudia, but by a system that let it happen while she was working herself into the ground. She was tired, so tired, but something inside her flickered, a small flame that hadn't died. Maybe it was time to stop surviving. Maybe it was time to start fighting. Jasmine was sitting on the floor of Mel's guest room, sorting through a box of her things. Mel had grabbed what she could from the porch. That night, Claudia locked Jasmine out. Most of it was clothes and random items, an old coffee mug, some notebooks, a broken watch. But at the bottom of the box, tucked between two books, was an envelope. It had her name written on the front in her father's handwriting. Her hands started shaking as she opened it. Inside was a folded letter, written in blue ink. It was dated a year before he died. "If anything happens to me, I want Jasmine to have the house. She's my daughter. She's been paying the bills, and she's the reason this house still stands. Please respect this." It wasn't fancy legal language. It wasn't typed, but it was her father's voice, clear and simple. Jasmine stared at the paper for a long time. Her heart beat faster with each word. This changed everything. He hadn't forgotten her. He hadn't chosen Claudia. He had meant for her to have the house. Anger rose in her chest like fire. All the nights she cried in her car, all the hours she worked, thinking she was keeping his home alive. And Claudia had lied, smiled, and kicked her out like trash. She stood up, grabbed the paper, and stormed out. It took 2 buses to get back to the house. She banged on the door until Claudia opened it. She wore a silk robe and had a glass of wine in her hand. "You again?" Claudia said, voice flat. Jasmine held out the paper. "You knew about this. You knew what he wanted." Claudia took the paper, glanced at it, and gave a soft laugh. "This? It's nothing. Not legal. Just a note. Your father knew better than to trust someone like you with real responsibility." Jasmine's mouth fell open. "He trusted me more than anyone." Claudia stepped closer. "Sweetheart, you're emotional. Always have been. You think crying and working long hours makes you ready to handle a house. Please." Jasmine's face burned, not just from anger, but from the weight of everything she hadn't said for years. She had spent so long trying to be quiet, to not make waves, to be the good daughter, and here Claudia was, erasing her like she never mattered. She took the paper back and walked away without another word. The next day, Mel drove her to a legal clinic on the edge of town. It was a small office above a bakery, with old carpet and kind eyes behind the desk. Jasmine showed the lawyer the handwritten letter. "It's something," the lawyer said carefully. "If we can prove this was written by your father in sound mind, and if we can show the current will was changed under pressure or through fraud, then yes, it could help." "But it was never filed?" Jasmine asked. "No," the lawyer said, "but intent matters, especially if we can show a pattern. Did anything seem strange near the end? Was your father isolated, pressured?" Jasmine blinked. The memories came fast. Claudia taking over everything after the funeral, her father's phone always off, the way he looked tired and withdrawn, weeks before he passed. The nurse Jasmine only met once, David, who had seemed uneasy when Claudia was in the room. "I think something was wrong," Jasmine said. The lawyer nodded. "Then we need to start gathering proof. It won't be easy, but it's not impossible." Jasmine folded the letter gently and held it close. She wasn't just holding paper, she was holding her father's last wishes. And now, she finally had a reason to fight back. Filing the civil claim was the hardest thing Jasmine had ever done. Sitting in the lawyer's office, signing papers she barely understood, she felt a mix of fear and hope. It was official now. She was taking Claudia to court. The lawyer warned her it would take time. "She'll fight back. Be ready," he said. And Claudia did. Within a week, Jasmine started hearing rumors. A woman at the hospital said Claudia had been talking about her, that Jasmine was unstable, that she had always been distant from her father. that maybe she wasn't in the right state of mind to be making legal decisions. Jasmine's stomach twisted when she heard it. Her work, the one place she used to feel strong, no longer felt safe. She found herself staring at walls, missing details. A patient asked for help twice before she noticed. She forgot to chart medication once. A hospital administrator called her into the office. "Everything okay, Jasmine?" he asked gently. "You've been off lately." She nodded quickly. "Just tired." He didn't press, but she saw the concern in his eyes. Word was getting around. At night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind spun with guilt, fear, anger. The lawsuit felt endless. Claudia's lawyer was trying to get the case thrown out, saying Jasmine had no proof, no legal will, no standing. The house wasn't hers, they claimed, and never had been. Mel tried to keep her grounded. She made her eat real meals, took her for walks. But even Mel couldn't fix the pain growing in Jasmine's chest. It felt like drowning in slow motion. One evening, while sitting with a box of old mail and receipts, Jasmine found an old hospital discharge paper, her father's name, the date, and a scribbled name at the bottom, David J. Morales, RN. She remembered him. He had been there the last week of her father's life, quiet, kind eyes, looked nervous around Claudia. The courtroom was cold and quiet. Jasmine sat at the front table, hands shaking slightly in her lap. She wore her best blazer, the one Mel helped her pick out. Her heart was pounding, but her face stayed calm. Claudia walked in like she owned the room, dressed in pearls, makeup perfect. She smiled, like nothing could touch her. Her lawyer followed, holding a thick folder. He looked confident, smug even. Jasmine looked across the room and saw David sitting in the back. He gave her a small nod. She nodded back, feeling a little stronger. The hearing began. Claudia's lawyer spoke first. He said Jasmine had no legal claim, that the handwritten will was not official, that Claudia had cared for William in his final days and deserved the home. He painted Jasmine as emotional, unstable, and disconnected. Claudia filed an appeal, just like everyone expected. She tried to delay everything, hoping the court would change its mind. But the judge stood by the decision. The truth was clear. Claudia had no right to the house. Jasmine didn't celebrate. She just felt quiet inside, tired, but at peace. A few weeks later, she went to visit the house. The front door creaked when she opened it. The rooms were empty now. Claudia had taken everything, furniture, curtains, even the kitchen light fixtures. The walls were scratched. The air felt cold and strange. Jasmine walked through each room slowly. She stood in the corner of the living room where her dad used to read. She ran her fingers across the wall in the hallway where her childhood height had once been marked with a pencil. It was gone now, painted over. Still, this was the last place they had shared. She sat on the floor for a while. No crying, no anger, just quiet. Then she stood up, locked the door behind her and made the choice. She sold the house. The money gave her something she hadn't had in a long time, space to breathe. She took time off work, stopped working double shifts. For the first time in years, she slept in a real bed without worrying about bills. She started therapy. At first, she didn't know what to say, but the words came. She talked about the grief, the betrayal, the weight of always being the strong one. Her therapist listened, nodded, reminded her that healing isn't fast or easy, but it's possible. One afternoon, she sat at a cafe with her laptop and began writing. Not a book, just a small guide, something simple to help other young adults who were going through the same kind of loss and legal confusion she had faced. She called it, What No One Tells You About Inheritance. Mel helped her edit it. They posted it online, and it started to spread. People messaged her, strangers, thanking her for the advice, sharing their own stories. Some were still in legal battles, some had given up. She answered every message. Jasmine realized something. Maybe her pain could help someone else. She decided to go back to school, not to leave nursing, but to add something new. She applied to a law program that focused on elder law and probate rights. She wanted to protect others from what happened to her, to become the kind of advocate she had needed when she was sitting on a porch in Scrubs, locked out of her own home. It wasn't easy. School was hard. Some days she still felt tired, still missed her dad. But she also felt proud. She was rebuilding her life, on her terms, not healed, but healing. It was a warm afternoon when Jasmine walked up to the old porch. The house looked different now. The paint was fresh and the garden was cleaned up. A new sign stood near the front gate, Safe Steps Family Shelter. She had given the money quietly, without her name on anything. She didn't want praise. She just wanted the house to mean something again. Not pain, not loss, but safety. She stood at the edge of the porch, not going inside. A young girl, maybe 7 or 8, walked up the path, holding her mother's hand. They both looked nervous, unsure. But a kind woman opened the door and welcomed them in with a smile. Jasmine watched them disappear into the house. The door closed gently behind them. She felt something shift in her chest, a lightness. She sat on the porch steps for a moment, the same steps where she had once sat, alone, locked out, with nowhere to go. But now, it was different. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Mel. "Proud of you. Your dad would be too." Jasmine stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then she smiled, small and real. She looked up at the sky, blue and calm. She took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long, long while, she let her shoulders relax. She was finally home. Thank you so much for staying with the story till the end. If it moved you, don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories. See you next time. Take care.